This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh, takes
dead
a hop
shank.
off the path.
You got to be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You got to hit it into the hill. One hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome PGA Tour winner and European Tour winner Freddie Jacobson to the Sub 70 podcast. Freddie, thanks for taking the time today to join us. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much. My pleasure.
Well, I know you're playing at the Nationwide Children's Hospital Championship out in Columbus, Ohio. It's the start of the final last 3 weeks for PGA Tour cards on the Corn Ferry Tour. How's your game feeling? How's the prep time going this week? And how excited are you to kind of get these 3 weeks going?
You know, I'm feeling pretty good. I've been over here the last 3 days, prepping a little bit. Coming off a busy summer, I was playing 5 weeks in a row on the PGA Tour. Unfortunately, the fifth week in Kentucky, my back kind of blew out on the Saturday. So finished the tournament, but went back and spent the last 3 weeks just taking my physio. And so just happy to be back on the course and really enjoying being out again. So looking forward to these 3 weeks, and hopefully the health takes a good check so I can give myself a chance.
I think these next 3 weeks are very interesting, even from like a golf fan's perspective. You have a really good mix of guys like yourself who are just proven tour winners, been out there forever, and then you got these young and up and coming players also trying to get their PGA Tour card. But more than not, it seems like the guys with the PGA Tour experience do pretty darn well during these finals. Do you think that's is it literally just experience and you guys have seen everything, or is it also the sense that, for you to be out there as long as you've been out there, you're a hell of a good golfer, and the quality of those guys coming off the PGA Tour are just generally slightly better than the guys on the Corn Ferry Tour, if you're looking at it from sort of 5,000 or 10,000 feet?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I really know any of the stats on who has come through and all that stuff, but I will say just in general, looking at the three events, that I'm kind of excited about the format instead of having, the way it used to be, just 1 week and having 4 or 6 rounds to play for it. I think probably all golfers and everybody that's playing well is probably feeling a lot better playing 3 weeks, and it should benefit the guys in form and the guys that play well. So I do think this system and, all the guys are playing for, real tournaments and, playing for a purse and all that stuff. So I think to the young guys as well, I think that's exciting, and gives them a chance to both, play really well in one of the 3 events that might be enough, and they have a chance to make some money, but hopefully making it to the PGA Tour.
You think it's a fairer test to do it over that 3-week period than just doing it in 5 days in a,
no doubt.
You think it does show the better player over that period of time, and you would rather have it that way than a shootout for 5 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a much fairer test. I think it's a great way to do it over 3 weeks. I think it's a no-brainer. This to me is much more appealing than cutting out to play just at one shot. So it should prove the better, the better form players, over 3 weeks should definitely, float to the top. So it should be a fairer test.
I know this year on the PGA Tour is, not what you expected from performance-wise. Is it injuries at this point in your career that can kind of get in the way of the amount of practice you can do and that sort of thing? Or, what do you think it's going to take for you to kind of get maybe in the back, top 50 in the world again, where, you've been for so long of such a good, consistent player? What are you going to kind of focus on next year to kind of get back, to that elite status player?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been number one is health. If you're physically in good shape and no pain, so you can practice and do all the work you need to do to be at that level and give yourself the chance you want to give yourself consistently, then that's the number one thing. Unfortunately, the last couple of years has been kind of up and down when it comes to the health for me, with some back issues and then nagging something where I had surgery. So I was gone for a year and a half, and I think, I've lived a lot my short game over the years as well, and I think my ability to kind of give my everything each day. So being away from competitive golf, I've been that many times for 3 to 6 months, and I've come back fine every time. But I think being slightly older now and being gone for a year and a half, I definitely noticed it was a little trickier to get into to the same competitive feeling, as well as finding the touch on and around the greens and get back to that level. So the first time I really felt like those things were coming together was this summer, actually, here in that last 5-week span. I felt my focus and my short game and touch was getting back to, the levels where I'd been before, and I was really enjoying it. But I got to admit, it's taken a lot of work this year to get to the point where I felt really comfortable on the course again.
It's interesting you say that. So is there even a difference when you're practicing at home in Florida and you have a great round? Is that one level of golf, and then is there also doing it in front of thousands of people on the PGA Tour against the best guys in the world? Is it still, at times, do you just have to play high-level tournament golf to be ready for that versus just, practicing at home? Is it still sort of a rhythm that you have to kind of get in on the PGA Tour versus just, quality of practicing when you're at your home club, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do have to compete and, get under the gun a little bit to sharpen things, but and get used to that. But, I never really, I don't mind that. I've always kind of been a guy that even if I haven't played much and I've been injured and I've been gone, I'm not worried about throwing myself out there. I kind of like that because I feel, once I feel ready, I feel like that gives the true test, and that gives me the chance to quickly figure out if there is something that kind of melts a little bit under pressure, to know what I should go and work on, whether it's mentally, and sharpen the focus, whether it's the touch, whether the swing doesn't quite hold up, or, so I kind of like to get back out there quick. But, after a year and a half, and if you haven't played much or practiced much because you're hurting, so, it's a real lack of rounds and repetition, so, but same thing there. As soon as I felt like, okay, I think my body can handle this, I still jumped out because I'd rather get out there, the conditions as well. We moved back to Sweden here, this past year. Conditions for practice, especially winter time, we got nothing. So it's, then my way is better to get out on tour, get back on the fast greens, get that rough around the greens and stuff. Beats hitting balls indoors into net,
Absolutely, yeah. Also, I was going to ask you, because it's kind of a hot topic this week, where seems like everybody in the golf media has talked about the slow play, and is it finally coming to a head? Love to have your view on it. Do you think it's a big issue? Is it not that big of an issue? Has it been slow forever? Is it getting slower? What's sort of your take on your assessment of the pace of play? And then if you do think it's a problem, what's the easiest way to potentially fix it to get it moving a little bit quicker if you think it's, something that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. I think, how it works on tour is, a group gets timed, right? And you got a number of times you can get timed in a year, assuming you don't have a bad time when you're on the clock. And the thing is, everybody can speed up when we're on the clock. Nobody's going to be silly enough and take 2 minutes on a shot when they know they got a rules official there. So the question is, how do you get to it, to get them generally to speak out, or speed up? That's the whole thing. I wonder, if you've been timed a certain number of times in a year, if you should fall into the category where it's only one guy getting timed or something, because I know days when you're out there and, I might be slow for a day, taking my time on certain shots or whatever, and get somebody else in trouble that is a quick player, and it's not really fair to him to end up on the clock just because I was slow a certain day, right? And what players play really fast, and they should never really be on the clock ever. And then it's some of us that are slower certain days, and then you have the guys that are consistently slow every single day, and a lot of the guys can feel, it's the nice guys, but it's kind of a nightmare to try to find your rhythm playing with some of these guys. And I think the biggest problem I see, when I end up in those groups is if somebody doesn't start preparing until it's their shot. Let's say you're hitting third into a group, or into a green, and you've had all that time to go through the yardage, to win. You should just be ready to pull your club, do your practice swing, and hit the shot. But, you start fiddling around with your club at that point, haven't got anything ready, and you start from scratch. I think the group falls behind easily. The guys that play fast, that are not used to being behind, they speed up even more trying to help out, but they don't really get any help from those guys. And I think those are the ones that I find the most annoying to play with when you don't see the effort. If everybody helps out, even if somebody, everybody's going to be a little different. Some guys are going to like to play fast naturally. Some guys are going to be a little bit more deliberate. But I just think the common sense of helping each other out and kind of pulling your weight if you do notice that somebody else is rushing to keep up, or if you notice you fall behind, I think you've got to kind of maintain that common sense. And if you lose that along the way, I think you've got a big issue. And I think you've got to find some kind of penalty for those guys that can't observe and kind of adapt to what's happening in those situations. As a professional, we should be able to recognize when we fall behind and make a conscious effort. That's the main of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it, right, where it seems like, just get your shot ready, get your yardage. So if you're playing and you're playing with another pro, it's just after you hit or vice versa, that person's just ready to pull the trigger. No different than playing, a 3.5-hour round at your home club, which doesn't feel rushed to me. It's always crazy to me at the best players in the world, how can you be out there for, 5.5 hours? Like, it just seems kind of, but that's the norm. The other part is, then what do you do in the situation where it was, Jordan Spieth with Kuchar when it took him a half hour to play the hole when he won the Open on, that final day on Sunday? I mean, are you really going to penalize a guy, in a major championship with, 8 holes to go or whatever hole he was on that, even though it took a half hour? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be I think it's a really hard problem to actually try to solve equitably, and how do you do it?
I think situational stuff like that, it's a one-off, it's a rolling. You got hills there, you can't see the line. You got a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot of things riding on it. There's always exceptions, right? But if you consistently on every single shot, that's one thing. You're going to have situations when the wind, when conditions affect the golf ball, or you got to call for a rolling, or something is happening. That's fine. What's going to happen to everybody? You want to make sure you do. But just the general stuff, I think that's where the big issue lays, and the challenge. And everybody knows who is slow. You see the draw, and you're going to be in for a tough one, and you feel rushed already when you're starting off the round, or you got tired of it and you play even slower yourself just so you can get on the clock, and you actually try to get on the clock, because then everybody speeds it up and at least you have a chance to get into a rhythm. But that's the wrong way to go about it. That's where I think everybody's better off if you help each other out and everybody makes a conscious effort.
Yes, hear exactly what you're saying. I was going to ask you how you started playing golf, over in Sweden and growing up there, and then how did that from, starting golf, getting onto the European Tour, which you did at a really young age, how did that transition go from just starting to playing to say, yes, I can do this at a professional level?
Yeah, I think we all, we're a big sports country, so everybody plays sports, but golf wasn't that big of a sport over there until the 80s, and that's when I picked it up. It was really kind of booming at that time, and I got to try it through one of the hockey guys where I played hockey. He played on the men's team there, and he was a golf coach part-time. So he invited the family over for a lesson, and we all kind of just got hooked on it. And I've always loved being outdoors. So, I played soccer and hockey and table tennis at that time. But golf was kind of appealing to me, and we were some really good friends picking up the game together and just played a lot in the summertime. Have those school breaks and play nice long bright days in Sweden in the summer. So we just hanging at the course all day and having fun.
At what age did you get good enough where you really thought, I've got a shot at being a successful touring professional? And were you 20 years old when you made it onto the European Tour? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think, at 15, I kind of knew I wanted to be, I think that's when I kind of knew I'd be a pro golfer. So at that point, I made up my mind. I always wanted to be a hockey player, but giving that up, I stopped at 13. So I think at 15, I felt like I got a good shot at golf, so I'm going to go for that. So around 15, and then at 20, I was fortunate to get onto the European Tour there. Had a bunch of experience. That was fun.
Was that transition of going from amateur to being a professional at 20, of learning how to travel and learning how to play in different areas and just basically learning how to be a professional, did it take a little bit of time for you to sort of get the rhythm of that, or did it come fairly quickly of essentially grasping the professional game at a high level?
Yeah, no, it definitely took a bit of time for me. I think, first of all, this is back in the mid-90s, and money in Europe wasn't big. It wasn't easy to first finance the season, to travel around, and you got pretty spoiled in the amateur ranks. The people organized the trips for you, booked the hotels and all that. For any rookie playing any tour, every place is a new place. Every country is a new country you haven't been to. You don't know your way around. So I found the first year was really difficult to know, where are you going to stay? Where do you fly to? How do you get around? All the courses are new. You got to start working with a caddy. I never had a caddy ever as an amateur. You just pulled your own cart, try to figure out, how do I work with a caddy? You run it as a business. How do I run a business? For me, I think the feedback I brought back to the Golf Federation and the Swedish Federation was, to prepare young golfers a little bit more on kind of that business and planning and the aspect of preparing things, because everybody's good, they're good golfers if they can make it onto the European Tour. There's no doubt they can play golf, but there's a lot of other stuff to it, and maybe feel a little bit more prepared on that end. I think that took a little more time than I hadn't really thought about that aspect before I got out there, and just noticed there was a lot of new stuff. And that's one thing all these guys, obviously when you're a rookie on tour and all that. So it's kind of important to get maybe an older guy that's been out there. Hopefully they know somebody that can help and try to get a lot of those things sorted before the season starts. So you're not trying to do it on the run.
Yeah, so like when Justin Thomas had Jimmy Johnson on the back, like something like that you love that combination of an experienced professional tour caddy helping a young, really talented young player out. That can be a great combination for that sort of scenario.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I look back at it, I would have definitely tried to hire an experienced caddy a lot earlier than I did. And try to get somebody to lead my way a little bit the first couple of years. I think that's great. That's a great way to kick it off.
I've asked this question and I've had answers both ways, but did you ever have that moment when you're first out in that European Tour and you're hitting range balls next to Legend X, Legend Y, or Legend Z, and you almost just have to, tell yourself, yes, I belong, you've earned your way out there, but holy cow, I am hitting balls next to Sam Torrance. I am hitting balls next to Ian Woosnam. Did you ever have one of those moments where it's pretty surreal?
I'll tell you, it was kind of strange for me because when I got on tour at 20, I'd never ever watched a golf tournament on TV in my life. So I barely knew any of the faces. I'd followed a couple of tournaments, just the Swedish events like the Scandinavian Masters. I'd been there attending it, but it's kind of strange. Golf wasn't it wasn't big. It wasn't a TV sport. We couldn't follow the tour on TV back then. We only had when I got interested, we might have had 4 guys playing on the European tour, and they weren't showing anything unless, maybe one of the ladies won when they won the U.S. Open, it would make it on to the sports broadcast, and I get like a 1 minute or 30 seconds on the sports, and that would be it. So it wasn't a big TV sport. So, I got out there, and I remember Colin Montgomery walked up to me the first week I was playing in Dubai, my first year. He was walking the course and came up and chatted a little bit and kind of said, great to see some new faces out there. And I wasn't even sure it was Colin Montgomery when he walked up. And I asked one of the other guys, was that Colin Montgomery? So, kind of embarrassing how little I knew about golf, really at that time. But I kind of just enjoyed playing it. I didn't really follow it at that point.
Well, maybe it's a blessing in disguise too, right? In the sense that you didn't have that moment of, hitting balls next to Monty and going, holy cow, I'm here, and, is the stage too big? Can I handle it? It sounds like you just kind of were out there, which kind of is not a bad mindset in the sense of, I belong, I'm out here, I'm going to play golf, and I'm going to compete, and we'll see where the chips fall, versus getting lost in that a little bit. Maybe it's, like I said, sort of a blessing in disguise that never did happen, and maybe you kind of made that transition into pro golf a little bit easier.
I can also tell you I didn't end up in those groups too often the first couple of years. I was either done by Friday or probably picking it up pretty early on Sunday. So, but after a few years, I suddenly enjoyed playing with them once started playing a bit better and kind of getting a little bit more established. It was a lot of fun, and they're great guys. All those guys, like Sam Torrance that you mentioned, class act and fun to play with, and Monty and all those guys. Just great characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of leads into my next question, which is perfect. Is you're kind of out there for a few years learning the ropes, and then that first win happens at the Omega Hong Kong Open in 2002, and what progressed in your game over that period to be, a European Tour player to a European Tour winner?
Yeah, it was kind of funny when it happened, because I played 1 year on the Challenge Tour, and I think I had 2 or 3 seconds that year, and then I had like 6 seconds on the European Tour before I won. And a couple of them you feel somebody did something special to win it. A couple of them you feel like I could have done better. I should have won that one. But I remember I had a chance just before that Hong Kong tournament, played the tour final, and I played with Langer in the last round at Valderrama. And I remember playing with him, and it was actually him and Monty in the end. At the end of the round, they ended up tying it, and both of them won because of darkness. But playing with Langer, and I saw how calm he was, and I know around the turn 10 or 11, it was really getting to me. It wasn't happening, and I was getting a bit frustrated, and I felt I'd been playing well, it was going to be my last tournament of the year. And I felt everything was there, but I was just trying a little bit too hard. And I just saw how methodically Langen just got on with it and just kept staying with it. And all of a sudden, it's got the trophy, and I was kind of, damn, that was close, but it was just a little bit of patience missing, to have a chance to be right there with him. So kind of asked the team, and, they kind of said, let's go and play a couple more tournaments. Why don't you go to Asia, and play Taiwan and Hong Kong before we call it, and it was, and I kind of knew I was going, it was kind of new to me. Taiwan, I'd never been there. Hong Kong, I'd never been there. So it was a long trip late in the year. Kind of feeling good about the game, and I think Hong Kong, kind of got the lead pretty early, I think, and kept playing well all week. Feeling good about it, but I think the key was having that experience I had with Langer a few weeks earlier, coming down the stretch. That was really the key that made the difference. I felt really, really comfortable the whole way. Such a fresh memory of watching somebody do it, so you kind of take a lot from that moment. So that was the biggest thing. Obviously, winning itself, it was a big relief, and I was very happy, because you keep finishing second. You to ask yourself, how long is this going to take, or am I ever going to win? But it was cool to see it kind of take a little bit out of that experience with Langer, and then get to have a chance back closely after and kind of be able to utilize what I saw.
And then, 2 more victories in the 2003 season. That has to be, validating that first one has to be really special. And kind of looking at those other 2 wins, is there anything that stands out that's, pretty special or incredible about having a 2-win season on the European Tour?
Yeah, I think the second win was in Portugal, and I'd gone down after that Hong Kong win, took the break, flew down, I think, to Australia, and I think I got hurt in the first round. flew from Sweden to, I got been over in Sweden and flew to Australia and made it for a couple of days and had to fly back, and I think I was out for a number of weeks. And Portugal was the comeback week. And I'd just been down to Spain practicing for a week, kind of combined vacation practice, and just worked on my short game, saving my hand. And I guess sometimes, I've had some good results when I've just done short game for a week before and just focus on one thing, and then feel pretty relaxed about it. And that's what happened in Portugal. I hadn't played for a while, felt excited about playing, been working hard on the short game for a week, and just, I guess, got myself in a situation where I had a chance to win the last day, and we came down the stretch and, won that one. So, it was good to get a second win that quick. And like you said, kind of feed a little bit of that momentum, and that kind of really kicked it into what I think is still my best year, my best golfing year, with another win, a third win at the Volvo Masters, and then had a good run over here in the U.S. and then during that summertime, and a couple of majors that went well. So kind of one thing led to another, but I think that comeback after that little injury early in the year there, coming back to Portugal, that was the key.
I was going to talk about your golf swing as well. Like, you just have great hands, and to me, your golf swing looks like somebody who's just being creative and hitting golf shots. And it's what do you have to do to hit those different, let's call there's 9 shots in golf that kind of all the pros can hit. Is that sort of how you developed your golf swing, where, we're not going to do it paint by numbers. You're going to do obviously it's technically very sound where it needs to be sound, but it's definitely your swing, and I love it. I love it, the fact that it's when you see that swing, it's Freddie Yock. When you were working and getting better and better, was that more of the goal of just the creativity and be able to hit the shots when you knew you had to hit the shots and feel that ability, more than trying to see, does it look absolutely flawless in every technical position on a computer screen? Yeah.
I think it goes back a little bit to the, what I mentioned earlier. I didn't watch golf, and I love to play golf. And, my buddy Johan Edforst, also played in Europe for a long time. We just played together every day, and we just loved having matches. And the course where we played, it was, kind of playing out to the ocean, seaside course out there. It would be windy. We were both, pretty small guys in the beginning, trying to lash it into the wind, playing into the wind. I think a lot of lean and, just hitting low shots. And I think it's a lot of that got stuck in my swing, and I didn't really do a lot of swing lessons for my first 10 years when I tried. I just started actually a little bit more later when I was on tour, when I noticed, I needed to tighten things up a little bit from the tee. The rough got thicker on tour.
Right.
So, yeah, but no, so I think it comes more from playing, like you said, trying to hit different shots and stuff like that, and not really trying to have a picture perfect swing. I was never really too worried about the swing. I just tried to score, basically.
Well, it's kind of seeing some of these young guys come out with, Matthew Wolff and stuff, and I love it that these guys have their kind of distinctive swings, right? They don't all look, built by, 10 steps to get to here. It's like, I love when these guys come out and you can kind of recognize, that's his golf swing. He's just playing his natural way. It's technically sound, but it's their golf swings. I think that's I love seeing that, especially from these younger guys coming out and kind of having the creativity and just allowing, the shot to sort of happen. And yeah, they tighten the stuff up where they need to tighten it, but yet they're, just because it works for Adam Scott doesn't necessarily it's going to work for Matthew Wolff in the same way. And I love it that their teachers are, Genghis is just letting him kind of be athletic and do that move and never changing it. I think it's just a cool thing to see for golf, with the creativity of it. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I got to say, you look at a lot of the guys that Genghis coach, they got such a good flow through the ball. I got to say, I love how they get through the ball, and there's no stopping. They just get through and clear great, and they're all synced up, and it's powerful. So I think, for me as a player, every time I feel I got good energy and I got good energy in the shots, then you can create shots. When the swing is off and you feel you don't have the hit or the energy, then you're going to struggle. It'd be a drag and a fight out there. But, you can tell all the guys there, they got good energy. And when you have that, you can work all the shots. You can hit the high ball, you can hit the shot shapes. So I love how they got that free flow and they got the energy. That gives you a lot of options in the course. So I think they're doing great work. It's fun to watch.
I absolutely agree with you. I love the athleticism and the freedom in those kids' swings that he's working with. And like I said, I think it's just a wonderful way to play golf. And like I said, he really gets those guys at impact and through impact in such good technical positions from that standpoint. He's really, really good, I think, at getting the most out of those students, knowing that it's a power game, but yet letting it be athletic and natural. And because I love the motion those kids have through it as well. It's going to be interesting how these guys, how they keep going.
That syncs up. That syncs up well.
Right.
Right. You can tell that syncs up how they get to the finishing position.
Absolutely.
It's not like they get there and the club comes up 0.3 of a second after, or it's all getting there together in the end. That's the key to repeat, isn't it? Being said, I think they look great.
Absolutely. Come over and play the PGA Tour in 2004. What made you decide to make that move? And then when you came over, were you already exempt basically into a lot of the tournaments based on world rankings, or how did you then secure your PGA Tour card when you came over to the States to play your golf full time?
Yeah, no, that happened actually in that season, in the 03 season, while I was playing in Europe. I just flew over to play in the U.S. Open qualifier and got into the U.S. Open, and that had a good week there. 03, and that got me in from the top 10, got me into the next week. And then, I got an invitation into the FedEx tournament in Memphis, and then I had a top 10 there and got me into the next week. And then I think at the British Open, I locked it up with another top 10. So from the U.S. Open to the British Open, I played 5 tournaments I counted on the PGA, all thanks to basically heading over for a U.S. Open qualifier. And those 5 events got me enough points in 03 to then have a full status for 04. So
yeah,
that's kind of how it happened. But, the reason for heading over, I kind of always wanted to, I played Europe for a number of years, and my goal as a kid, because I didn't even know about the PGA Tour, was I'd seen a few guys in Sweden made it to the European Tour, but once I'd played there for a few years, I kind of felt like I wanted to have yet another thing to look forward to, and try challenge myself to get to play even tougher competition, get to see new courses and gain new experiences. So that's when I started, the seeds kind of got planted about trying the U.S. I was over in 2000 actually, and played the Q school and got pretty close there, missed my shots, I think, in the end in 2000, and then just in 03 was ready to go back again and give it another shot. So that was the path to the U.S. for me.
And then the win at the Travelers in 2011. How's winning on the PGA Tour? Does it change your life at some level when you're winning on arguably for the most money, the biggest tour in the world, and has to be one hell of a feeling to get that W on that platform and that stage.
No doubt. I mean, we all want to win, and and I think especially when you've been close. I kind of ended up in a similar situation to Europe. I'd had a number of second places, and that's not fun after a while because you keep playing. You always want to have at least that 1 week when you get to win the event and and have your week. So, but pressure builds when you've had a number of seconds. I mean, you just keep feeling. I hadn't really had a chance in the U.S. where I'd had a lead coming into Sunday, though. So I felt like I still had to give myself that real good chance to really give myself a realistic chance. And I think at the Travelers was the first time I came in with a lead to Sunday, and I had a one-stroke lead. And it was just great to finally get that position. And my game was, it was clicking that week and hitting the ball really, really nice and clean and straight. So felt in good control, and it was nice to get it done. But, obviously, it gets you into a bunch of nice events. You get to win, and then, you get a little bit of a breather too. When you don't win, you know how it works on tour. You got to finish top 125 every year, keep your job. You get a little bit of a breather on that end, and you can just focus on playing a schedule you like, and no rush with anything, and just the win gets you into the big events. And world ranking is probably pretty good for most guys to win, and you get to play the majors and all that stuff. So got into a bunch of fun stuff there over the next couple of years following that.
Also going to ask you about your equipment. We all know you're a Callaway staff player, and when you go to look for potentially making a change in equipment, how do you go about evaluating what you might look at, and how long does that process sort of take for you to change a ball or to change a driver or to change a wedge or iron, anything like that, when you're kind of working with the guys at Callaway to get the stuff in your bag and kind of maybe potentially give you a little bit more performance that you currently have, but yet you don't want to make a switch where, you might be losing a little something to get something. So how's that sort of process work for you, I should ask?
Yeah. I mean, normally I would go about it in the off season. Over the last couple of years, it's been a little tricky because I haven't really had a chance to practice that much in the off season. So I've had my iron changed this season, changed to a new iron. And I changed when I came over and got back into it last fall. We got into new Callaway ball. And, normally if I test something, because I'm not one that want to be hitting balls for 2-3 hours at the tournament and, stand there and pound drivers to test too much. I'd rather do that at home. So, but, if I notice something is giving me results quickly, I'm not one to hesitate to give it a shot either. So the golf ball, I really love that. And, just switched right over. I was out testing it and played 9 holes with it, and it was going further. It was performing better. So, I shifted over to that golf ball immediately, and then the irons, or if I, changed to a new head and went to a slightly different shaft. So, that comp was just trying to get the ball to land a little softer for me. So, it'd be certain things to be looking for, but, when it comes to the driver, I play a slightly longer driver than standard just to gain a little club head speed and get a little more distance out of it. So, a little bit trickier for me to change a driver and maybe somebody playing standard lengths because, the weight of the head, it can't weigh too much when you play longer shaft, or the swing weight's going to get really heavy. So then it depends how much you can fill it and stuff like that, and what sound it will have, or how it affects. So when I find a good one there, I hang on to it. I tend to hang on to my drivers a little bit longer probably than most guys. But wedges, work with Callaway as soon as the grooves are a little worn, or maybe like earlier in the year, I put in a 64-degree wedge, added one wedge and took away like one of my long irons. So stuff like that, you work with the team. Callaway's got, some really good guys out there to help out week to week. So if something comes up or conditions change, you can get quick access to working on it.
How long is the driver in your bag? How many inches is it that you're playing?
Mine is 47.
Holy cow! Yeah, that is long for a touring pro. Do you notice you get maybe another 5 or 6 miles an hour club head speed with that, and that's why you're going with that length of a club?
Exactly, and I got kind of shortish arms, and I feel, actually with the driver, I feel, I tend to get a little steep, if anything, in my swing on the way down. So it kind of helps me shallow a little bit. A lot of guys hit it nice and shallow and high anyway, but the longer shaft kind of helps me get the ball up a little bit more in the air as well. So I gain some carry, which, you want to have a little bit of height and carry to maybe clear some bunkers and cut some corners in places. So it's been good for me. I've kind of done it since probably 2010 or something, probably for a good 8-9 years. So been 46 to 47 inches through that period. So kind of a way to at least close a little bit of that gap. Everybody hits it so far these days. So it's kind of been a way for me to kind of stay closer to average anyway. I'm never going to be a bomber, but you don't too much either.
Yeah, no. If it can get away with it, makes complete logical sense to me of getting a little extra horsepower, and if it doesn't feel too long, use the physics to your advantage, right? I mean,
I don't feel like I give up any accuracy, which is a good thing. So.
No, it makes if you can get a little more horsepower, like I said, out at the PGA Tour with the game that's played out there anymore. If you can keep up with the guys and it doesn't affect accuracy, by all means, right? Get out there and bomb the thing. Makes sense to me where you're going with it. I was going to ask you about business too. I have enjoyed your beers that you guys have put out there with the Golf Brewing Company down at Graham McDowell's restaurant in Florida a few times in Orlando. And question about that is, how did you guys come up with that concept with Keegan and you and Graham doing the beer, and how much have you enjoyed being on the business side of some stuff as well?
Yeah, it was a really fun project. It was a friend of mine, a Swedish guy, that came up with the idea, and we got Graham and Keegan involved. It was a matter of having a couple of guys that love a beer and come from countries and places that appreciate good beer as well, like the Northeast here and Ireland, obviously. So I think everybody enjoyed it a lot. It's obviously a competitive marketplace, but it was fun working with the brewmaster and being part of it, and from the whole process, I truly enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. So, it's fun, and I think it came out well, and the beers tasted good, and it was kind of a fun project.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? I mean, how many golfers are going to have a couple beers after the round, and to have you guys, with your guys' brand recognition of names, it makes, like, to me, it makes like a perfect symmetry to bring out the beer with those, with the tour players. And I just thought it was a really great concept. And yes, and by the way, the beer was actually very good. All three of them were really good. So that was a very cool concept to go with. Got some quick hitters here, and we'll get you out of here and get you back to practicing or whatever you're doing this Wednesday. And tell me if I'm wrong on this, but is it you and Matt Kuchar probably the best two ping pong players on tour? And my question is, have you ever got to play Kuchar?
I played Kuchar quickly at the Players after one of the rounds there. We played up there, and Kuchar is a good player, and I would say Faxon is a very good player as well. So Kuchar and Faxon is the two best I played on tour. I would think that Faxon is probably a little bit better than Kuchar, at least at least that's what Fax says when I ask him.
Did you beat Kuch when you played him?
I did beat Kuch, and Fax and I had a good rally too, and I got him too. But Fax used to play. I think Fax was ranked number 2 in Rhode Island, a small state, but still he was a competitive player growing up, and I used to compete. And I think Kuchar is very impressive for, I think he's more of a tennis player. He's got more that tennis style, but he's got great hand-eye coordination. He's a very, very good player, and I think he just loves playing. And it's impressive that somebody plays that well that actually, he's just played table tennis for fun. So he's a good competitor.
What other hobbies do you enjoy when you're away from golf? Besides family and being at home with wife and kids, is there anything else that you really enjoy doing when you kind of shut it down for a little bit and try to relax when you're back at home?
Well, I think my three favorite things in Sweden, I love boating in the summer. And then, for vacations, the two favorites, hands down, is surfing and skiing. I love surfing and skiing. So, just planning a vacation trip here for the fall for the family to head over to Costa Rica and go surfing probably for 10 days. And then we'll probably after New Year's, we'll probably do our annual ski trip down to the Alps again. So love skiing. I try to sneak off maybe one or two more extra times on my own or with Erica, my wife, and get a few more ski days in. I just love it. Love the mountains.
Favorite 2 or 3 golf courses you've ever gotten to play in? What makes them so great from an architectural standpoint?
I love links golf. So, a lot of those British courses I've enjoyed through the years. But I also love the scenery. The thing I miss sometimes with them is you can't see the ocean from there. But, place like, love playing Pebble, Cypress Point. Beautiful, right up there. Augusta special, and I think out of the other courses, for inland courses that I love the scenery and the course and how it plays is Viewfield Village here in Ohio as well. It's just a beautiful, beautiful course, and I think it's always in great conditions. So, there is a number of them, but there's so many, and Ballybanyan over in Ireland, phenomenal. It's a lot of them. I love St Andrews. Kings Barnes is a beautiful course. Maybe not the toughest links course, but great scenery and course to play. And it's a lot of them. But the British Isles and the West Coast in the U.S., that's probably my favorite areas.
Did you fall in love with St. Andrews the first time you played it? Or I've talked to a lot of the guys where at first they're kind of like, yeah, then they kind of fall in love with it a little bit over time as they learn the course a little better.
I hated it. I got stuck in a bunker on the second hole, man. It was in 93, I think the European amateur event or St. Andrews Links Trophy. I think I had like 3 shots to get out on the second hole. I thought, what the heck is this? But not more and more. Like a lot of people say, I still appreciate it more and more every time I go there. So, you learn every time and where to aim and how to play it. So, I think that one takes a lot, and the weather varies so much too, and the wind, so different every time. But it plays great. I just enjoy it more and more.
Best golf shot you ever hit under pressure?
Wow, that's a good question. Best golf shot under pressure. You know what? I think it's the Valderrama. They gave me, I think, the field of the year for the shot on 8. So just on that 17th hole on the lake there, I spun it back into the lake. I was leading the tournament, and spun it back and made a double. And the guy in second place made a birdie, so I went from a 1-shot lead to 2 shots down coming into the last, and he hit it into the case a little bit on the right, and I took a 3-wood to find the fairway, and I had like a 9-iron left, I think 9 or 8 iron, and I hit it up to like a foot from the hole to get back and put some pressure. So he made bogey and it kept me in it to eventually win the tournament. So I gotta say that one, because it would have been such a hard break to lose it after that 17th hole too.
Last one I got for you. What do you miss most about not living in the U.S. or in Florida at this point? Is there a certain part of America that you absolutely loved? And I know it's got to be great living in Sweden, but you still love that part about being in the States.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I come back, every time I drive into the Medalist, just the evening, very peaceful, a lot of nature, wildlife. Just loved spending 15 years there. I think, the U.S. to me, and every time I come back, I always appreciate, the attitude that people have and the positive, how positive people are. And I think it's a very, very good attitude, and I think it's contagious, so I always enjoy myself to come back to the U.S. and, obviously all our kids were born in Florida. So we'll always have a strong bond and always come back to Florida. So, loving the ocean. We were close to the ocean there. Go down, surf a little, be on the beach. Weather, I do miss the weather in the winter. I'm having a hard time with the winter in Sweden. Honestly, I take some trips to get out of there because it's been 25 years, I think, since I really had a full winter there. So I'm not planning to do any full winters anytime soon there. It can just get chilly. So yeah, good time to visit Florida, or head back out on tour and go out and play and be in the nice weather. So that's a lot of things. A lot of good memories.
Well, best of luck in the next 3 weeks coming up. We'll be watching. Play well, and it should be an interesting thing to watch. Like I said, it's fascinating to watch these tour veterans who have been out there and the young guys coming up and kind of seeing what happens when that gets mixed together. But best of luck with everything. Play well, and thank you again for your time today. I really, really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate it.